Welcome along to part two of the Storywriting Social with me, Simon Hall. So let's get straight into it. And we are on to letter D of our A to Z of how to write and tell stories. And so D, any guesses what D stands for? And don't forget, you can pause at any moment, have a few guesses before I reveal it. I'll give you a clue. What do all these have in common? Very, very important in story writing and telling. What do they have in common? Pause if you want to. And I'll give you the answer now. D is drama. You've got to have drama in a story. Now, where does drama come from? Well, a main source of drama is in conflict. Conflict between your characters, conflict between them and whatever. So let's have a look at these examples. Where does the conflict come from in The Great Escape, that wonderful war film? First of all, where are the characters, first of all? Who are they mainly in conflict with? Okay. Of course, it's the Germans, it's the enemies, but it's deeper than that, isn't it? There are also conflicts amongst themselves when they're disagreeing about how to try and get out of the prison camp. There are conflicts within themselves, whether they can or can't do that. There are even conflicts with the environment, the fear of going out through a tunnel and it could collapse at any moment. So there are all sorts of different fears. And drama comes from not just one main enemy, although that is commonly the case, but lots of other enemies as well. So that's what you're looking for, lots of drama, and that comes from conflict. Again, look at Robinson Crusoe. What's the main enemy there for Robinson Crusoe? Probably the environment, the island, him trying to survive, but of course there are conflicts within himself as well. Can he actually do that? Are there any forms of conflict as well? Well, have a think about it. Aliens, there's an obvious one. The main enemy, of course, the nasty alien. But many more sources of conflict, bringing lots of drama to that as well. Conflicts within Ripley herself. Can she do this? She's scared. These are horrible creatures. The environment. There's the enormity of space, the horror of the environment, the alien planets. That's where conflict comes from, adds to the drama, adds to the fear. And also there are other forms of conflict as well. Friends, are they really friends? Or is there an enemy within? And technology, is the computer, is the spaceship, is the technology helping or not? So one main enemy, but lots of forms of drama. And Pride and Prejudice, a very different form of story, but still full of drama. Where's the main drama in Pride and Prejudice? What happens with Elizabeth Bennet? Is it with her love? Is it who she should love, who she really loves? Is it society? Is it her family? So lots of forms of drama there. So when you're setting up a story, think about where the drama comes from. There's often a main enemy, but there are lots of other enemies as well. Take this as an example, as an exercise. Harry Potter. Where does all the conflict come from in Harry Potter? Pause for a second and think about it. Well, there's conflict with the main enemy, of course, Voldemort, but there's lots of other conflicts as well. Think of this as a list of conflicts. There's Voldemort, the main enemy. His own self, he's often doubting himself, whether he's really a wizard. The environment, some of the area around him, around Hogwarts and other places, that can be hazardous. Love interest, well, is that going to work out or not? That's a common form of conflict and drama. Friends and family, a lot of tension there, sometimes between his friends and family about what he's doing and what he's doing to them. Boss, the system, well, of course, Dumbledore is like a father to him, but there's conflict. Can Harry live up to it? Is Dumbledore pleased with what Harry is doing? And technology as well. Sometimes, I suppose for them, the technology is getting the hang of wizarding. It's not quite as easy as it looks, is it? There's lots of different forms of conflict there. So D, drama. When you're setting up a story, you're looking for lots of drama, and that means lots of conflict. Both the main enemy, but lots of others as well. So let's move on to E. Any guesses before I show you? I'll give you a clue. Got it now? Yes, of course. E is editing. And let me introduce you to an important saying in writing. Writing is rewriting. Absolutely true. The first draft of anything is, according to Ernest Hemingway, a bit unfair, but the point being that you have to work and work and work at it. You don't just create genius. You might have a bit of talent, but you really have to work at it. And I'll give you an example of that here, a very famous example with an iconic opening line from one of the best known books in English literature. So tell me, before we go on, what book starts with the opening line? It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. Pause if you need to. Have a think for a second. Yep, that's right. George Orwell, 1984. Iconic opening line. But because we still have Orwell's manuscripts for writing in 1984, we can see what his original opening line was. Very different. Have a look at this. It was a cold day in early April, and a million radios were striking 13. Nothing like a sharp, clean, resonant, striking, excuse the pun. And I wonder if that would have gone down in history if it had stayed like that before Orwell came back to it and worked on it and wrote and wrote and rewrote. So editing, you might put down something fairly useful to start with, but it's only going to get really good with practice, with preening, with preparation. Work at it, edit it. So for a little exercise here, let me give you a stumbling piece of awful writing, courtesy of me, when I've been trying to sum up the start of a book about these rather troubled times. If ever the border between two consecutive, apparently ordinary days marked an unimaginable change in the world which we had come to know here in the modern day United Kingdom, that was the moment when Monday, 23rd of March, 2020 became Tuesday, 24th. So it's about lockdown. And it's about the start for us, I suppose, of coronavirus crisis. True. Awful, lumbering, waffly, terrible English. Have a look at that. Pause for a while. See if there's anything you can do with it. And if you can, get in touch because I'd appreciate your help. Right, let's move on to G. What's G? And have you noticed anything? I know you're smart enough, of course. We've changed the order. And the reason we've gone to G rather than F is that surprises are important in writing, story writing and storytelling, as I will show you later. So any guesses what G might be? You won't get it because I've been a bit naughty with this. It's rather mangled, so apologies for that. Any guesses now? G is getting ahead. What do I mean by getting ahead? Well, it's important to get off to a good start if you're writing a story to keep the reader with you. But if you want to get published, agents, publishers, well, they can be quite mean in how much of your beautifully crafted story that you've written, how much you actually look at, the heart that you put into it. Novels are what, 90 or 100,000 words. I've heard agents and publishers say, if they get a manuscript, this beautifully written piece that means so much to someone, they will often read just the first page, sometimes the first paragraph, and sometimes even just the first line. They think they can tell whether it's worth going on from the first line. Horrible, isn't it? So those are the rules of the game, but we've got to go with them. We can't change them. Excuse me, running a bit short on power. Better plug in. So how do we make sure we craft a good opening line? Let's have a look at some famous opening lines from books and from films and also from songs. We do this as a quiz. I'll pause as we go so you can have a guess. So what book starts with this opening line? It's a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. Pause if you need to have a guess. Yes, of course, it's Pride and Prejudice. Why such a good opening line? Well, 3 points. First of all, straight to the heart of the story. You know immediately you're going to be reading a romance there. Point 2 tells you something about the writer, Jane Austen. Brilliant writer. She can sum up something like that with a beautiful observer's eye, with brevity of expression, words, just a few words. So she's worth spending time with. And point number 3, when you read something like that, do you then put it aside and think, I don't want to read any more? Or does it make you want to read on? Of course, the latter. You want to read on. And see how those 3 lessons are replicated in other famous opening lines. What about this one? I've heard there was a secret chord that David played, and it pleased the Lord. Song this time. What is it? Pause if you need to have a think. Yep, Leonard Cohen, Hallelujah. And again, the 3 points, straight to the heart of the story, tells you Cohen is a great writer and musician and worth wanting to find out more. What about this one? Last night I dreamt I went to Mandalay again. Any guesses? That's Daphne du Maurier and Rebecca. To the heart of the story in just a few words, mystical, not quite sure what's really going on type feeling. Tells you something about her, a great writer, makes you want to find out more. Film. 3 billion human lives ended on August 29th, 1997. The survivors of the nuclear fire called the war Judgment Day. Yeah, Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Straight to the heart of the story. Shows you that they know what they're doing in terms of writing and making films. Makes you want to find out more. Hello, Darkness, my old friend. Paul Simon, Sound of Silence, beautiful. Just 5 words, straight into the heart of the story, reputed to be written about the death of President Kennedy, the assassination, the extinguishing of a beautiful voice of the generation. Tells you about Paul Simon, worth spending time with. Makes you want to find out more. What about this one? She's a life, she's a job, she's a career, she's a family, she's a fucking big television. Excuse the accent. Got that one? Train spotting, yep. And still into the heart of the story, these strange alternate lives. Makes you want to find out more. Really good writing as well. Finally, a beautiful one. All children, except one, grow up. Get that one? J.M. Barrie, Peter Pan. Just 6 words. Tells you about the story, tells you about Barrie, makes you want to find out more. Beautiful. So when you're opening your story, whatever it might be, pay particular attention to the start. And as an exercise now, see if you can come up with a lovely, intriguing, alluring start that sets out your story, gives a sense of you worth reading, but also makes me want to find out more. So, F. Any guesses on F? Finally for this session, F is finale. If the start of your story is the most important part, then the end is probably the second most important part. It's what people tend to remember. So how do you do a finale? The point is to try to make it memorable. End with an oomph, make us remember it. So again, let's do a little quiz. Some famous last words from stories, whether they're books or films. What's this one? After all, tomorrow is another day. Any guesses? Pause if you need to. Yep, that's Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind, book and film. And an optimistic note to a sometimes sad film. And lovely. It was remembered because of that optimistic note, the look towards the future. After all, tomorrow is another day. Memorable. What about this one? The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist, and like that, he's gone. Film? Usual Suspects. Brilliant film. Very, very memorable and full of the twist. And we'll talk about twists a little later in this series. What about this one? Amen. What's that? Yeah, of course, it's the Bible. What a bold, booming ending. So be it. Great. Really powerful, memorable. It's a far, far better thing that I do than I have ever done. It is a far, far better rest that I go to than I have ever known. What's that? Got that one? A bit more literary here. I'm being literary. Just checking that I've got it right. Yes, of course. Tale of Two Cities, Dickens. And of course, it's about turmoil, revolution, and again, a looking forward, optimistic note, and lovely writing as well. Memorable. I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. Ooh, sinister. Film again. Got it? Yeah, Silence of the Lambs. Yeah, a really sinister ending, but sums up the character, and it's something you remember, isn't it? And what about this? This is absolutely beautiful to end us with. So they went off together, but wherever they go, and whatever happens to them on the way, in that enchanted place on the top of the forest, a little boy and his bear will always be playing. Isn't that wonderful? Got it? Yeah, Winnie the Pooh. Beautiful and so poignant and so sad, so memorable, because we've gone through all these wonderful stories with Christopher Robin and his friends. And then that's the point where he's leaving the land of childhood. And those friends aren't friends anymore. They're just toys strewn on the floor of the forest. Even makes me cry now. It's absolutely beautiful. Beautiful. So, famous last words. So in summary, most important part of your story to start with, opening line, sum up the sense of your story, get a bit of you in there, make you obviously worth listening to, make you want to find out more. Second most important part, probably the ending, make it memorable. We've also covered the D today. D, drama. Drama comes from conflict, a main enemy always, but lots of sub-enemies as well. The more drama you've got, the better your story's going to be. Really helps to move it along. And E, editing. You don't write brilliance to start with. I certainly don't, nowhere close. But if you work and work and work at it, you might get something fairly reasonable. So that's DEFG of the Storywriting Social. Next week we'll move on and I will show you some other. But I hope that was helpful as a recap, and I hope to see you on Thursday evening at 7:30 for the next part. Bye for now.